Today on Investigate TV Plus, trains left running for hours at a time, and people living nearby worry about the impact on their families and community. I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Tisha Powell. Our investigation digs into lax regulations that critics say allow locomotives to spew fumes across the country. Plus,
it doesn't put an immediate dent, but you'll see a dent long term.
When thinking small creates a big impact.
It's small, but it's not super tiny, if you will. There's some space here.
We explore how tiny homes are reimagining shelter for the homeless.
Then a movie theater renovation.
Follow my shadow. It was back here under this pipe.
Sets the scene for a real-life plot twist, more than 6 decades in the making.
I mean, this is treasure trove of 1958.
In-depth stories that inform and inspire. You're watching Investigate TV Plus. Our team has spent months investigating the dangers of stopped trains that block railroad crossings. This video from an Indiana city of a child trying to get to school but forced to crawl under a stopped train sparked outrage across the country. Leaders at the local, state, and federal level called for action. Now, health and environmental advocates are raising new concerns about noxious fumes coming from idling trains.
A study by the Washington State Department of Ecology says trains idle to charge batteries, warm engine fluids, and meet other operational needs. The same study says this practice can also result in significant emissions of air pollution and greenhouse gases.
Investigative reporter Josie Sturman exposes the loophole that's letting some rail operators hold off on modernizing to solve the problem.
We never really thought we'd be homeowners.
For Caitlin Hilliard and Ben Weinberg, it was the American dream come true until they realized their neighbor was a nightmare.
When they're sitting out there idling, what's it like?
Sometimes it's like sleeping inside a factory.
The couple live about 300 feet, the same distance as 20 parking spaces, from a spot where trains are often stationed for hours.
We write down the date, the day of the week, the time it arrives.
Ben and Caitlin started tracking trains in a detailed database after noticing the recurring problem. Because while they knew about the tracks before they bought the house and expected trains running by, over time they realized many would end up standing still with their engines running, something that's often done to keep the train's fluids warm and crews comfortable. Just last year, the pair charted more than 400 trains they say idled outside their townhome community. One locomotive Caitlin and Ben recorded sat idling for more than 30 hours.
We shouldn't be the ones monitoring this railroad situation. Somebody who actually has some power, like the government, should be monitoring it.
But the feds aren't specifically tracking idling trains, despite fears and frustration reported in cities across the nation. Our national investigative team wanted to take an even deeper look into the problem. We dug through blocked crossing data from the Federal Railroad Administration dating back to 2019 and discovered dozens of complaints that mention idling, from a train sitting with its engines on for 3 days in Nashville to a locomotive idling and popping at all hours in southern Georgia. Health concerns are also highlighted in complaints from Alabama to Illinois and Texas. They're echoed loudly in California, where our team obtained complaints specifically about idling trains, tracked by a state agency focused on curbing pollution and fighting climate change. In that data, there's talk of toxic smoke and diesel fumes causing breathing issues and nausea as trains park for days or weeks at a time, idling and impacting neighbors.
I just worry about the long-term health implications of that.
Studies have found people living near rail lines and rail yards have lowered lifespans, increased asthma, heart, and lung disease rates, and a risk of cancer because of the exposure to particulate matter that comes from train emissions. But despite the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, saying it's well aware of the health impacts of train emissions from idling, critics say the agency hasn't done enough to stop it.
We continue to suffer.
That's Yvette Torres with the People's Collective for Environmental Justice, who testified virtually in a Senate hearing last July on behalf of 50 groups nationwide.
We need standards that are higher and better than the 2008 standards.
The current EPA standards from 2008 sound good on paper. They say any locomotive or engine made after 2015 has to be equipped with idling control systems that shut off engines after 30 minutes. But experts testified very few of them have been made.
We've made strong commitments.
Ian Jeffries, the leader of the rail lobby, says companies have invested more than $1 billion to modernize. But it can't happen overnight.
It's got to be done in a way that can allow us to continue to operate, serve our customers, serve our communities, and that the production market can actually handle.
States have also been long powerless to regulate trains because of federal law, says David Pettit with the Natural Resources Defense Council.
Those neighbors are paying with their health and their lives in order to support railroad profits.
The Association of American Railroads, the industry lobbying group that testified on the Hill, wouldn't speak on camera. Their rep told our national investigative team trains that idle for an extended time are not in the community's or industry's interest, and that railroads have made significant efforts to reduce idling, implemented extensive measures to reduce rail yard emissions, and improve air quality for nearby communities. For its part, the EPA declined an interview, but told us it's been engaging with stakeholders since 2022, evaluating how best to address rail emissions, and is developing a set of options and recommendations for regulatory action.
What I would tell rail yard neighbors is to beat on EPA as often and as hard as they can.
Caitlin Hilliard and Ben Weinberg are banging the drum everywhere they can.
You should not be treating human beings like this, especially these companies have so much money.
Union Pacific, the company whose trains routinely idle outside that couple's home, says it's been using that spot for years with few complaints or issues. Still, the company says it's taking steps to address their concerns, including planting trees to serve as a buffer. In-depth coverage of train emissions continues on our website, InvestigateTV.com. You can read and watch Josie's reports by typing "railroaded" in the search bar. Still to come, a young girl's message from the heart.
I want to tell their kids that you don't have to be alone and you're perfect the way you are.
How a serious medical diagnosis inspired her to send words of encouragement to children just like her.
But first, tiny homes are having a big impact.
Someplace that is respectful, that, can allow them to have their dignity again.
We take a look at the small-scale approach helping the homeless get off the streets.
A record number of people are considered unhoused in the United States. A federal report released in 2023 found more than 653,000 were experiencing homelessness, a more than 12% increase since the previous year.
The National Alliance to End Homelessness says every night, more than 300,000 men, women, and children stay in homeless shelters, but 40% of people experiencing homelessness are unsheltered, meaning they sleep somewhere like a tent or a car.
Advocates say oftentimes people without homes avoid traditional shelters because of a lack of privacy. Reporter John Snell shows us how one group is providing that sense of privacy and dignity with tiny homes.
I had a tent over on the other side of the Superdome over here.
Pam Smith came to New Orleans 10 years ago in search of work. She wound up on the streets. Life there means lacking something as simple as the security of a locked door.
Even living in a tent, you don't have anything but a piece of nylon between you and whatever happens, and it gets real scary.
Like so many others, Pam seemed out of options, out of resources, out of hope. She was far from alone, and that's where Luann White comes in.
Home sweet home, tell me about it.
So this is an accessible unit.
She and Jervis Reed set out to tackle the issue of homelessness in New Orleans. They founded Luvis Services with the mission of building tiny houses for the homeless.
Bedroom with closet, and then an accessible bathroom.
Complete with appliances, a small living area, heat, and air conditioning. 2 new occupants moved into the first unit in the 9th Ward a few months ago.
It's small, but it's not super tiny, if you will. There's some space here.
Yeah, it's comfortable. We tried to come up with a design that was comfortable for someone who is in a wheelchair.
Lubis caught the attention of Donna Paramore, who runs the Travelers Aid Society of Greater New Orleans. They agreed on a partnership.
Someplace that is respectful, that, can allow them to have their dignity again, something that can allow them to hope again. So I thought it was wonderful and exactly what we needed, especially with the scarcity of affordable housing in New Orleans.
I know.
It was Travelers Aid that helped Pam Smith into an apartment in New Orleans East, when caseworker Angela Ozarek told Pam she would get her off the streets.
Really, she saved my life.
Ozarek helped Pam fill out applications for assistance and get health care for severe back pain and breathing problems.
Maybe 10 to 15 seconds of walking before you had to stop and you couldn't breathe anymore. So it was really concerning to me that Pam might have like a major heart event or something like that.
Federal money pays for Travelers' Permanent Supportive Housing Program, which serves up to 155 households. To qualify, someone must be chronically homeless, on the streets for over a year, and with a disability.
We almost never encounter anyone who doesn't want housing. It's more what you said about like losing the ability to keep track of time, like losing the ability to try.
Angela's an angel or something. She really helped me. She helped me a whole lot.
Pam lives in traditional housing, but the concept of tiny houses has caught on in other communities, such as Portland and Seattle. They've drawn some critics who question the value of cramming large numbers of people into small areas. Supporters see them as a way of bringing people inside quickly.
I really am proud.
In the Ninth Ward, Lubis initially planned to install modified shipping containers.
So what reaction did you get to shipping containers?
We got it was not a favorable reaction for shipping containers in this community.
After howls of protest from neighbors, they settled on this tiny house duplex, 2 units, each about 500 square feet, adorned with screened porches. Architects donated their services.
The feedback that we got from the community is that we need something that fits into the community. And it's like, oh, well, we can do that.
The two organizations plan to work together on 4 more tiny houses in the Lower 9 before possibly moving on to other neighborhoods. When the scale of the problem at times seems insurmountable, how much difference can they make?
It doesn't put an immediate dent, but you'll see a dent long term. So you have to look at like a problem like homelessness didn't start in one day, and it's certainly not going to end in one day.
For somebody who is trying to get back on their feet, what does it mean to have this as a kind of, a base, if you will, of operations?
It means they can address their own needs, they can make their own choices, they don't need someone else telling them when they have to get up and get out.
Research from the University of Southern California finds that tiny homes work better than traditional homeless shelters because their residents are more likely to find permanent housing after living in one. The same study finds that there are several things tiny home programs can do to improve the odds of success, including connecting residents to caseworkers and giving them access to private bathrooms. In New Orleans, I'm John Snell.
Advocates of tiny homes go on to say they are a fast, cheap way to get the unhoused sheltered immediately, and other advocates applaud tiny homes as improved shelter options, but are wary about over-relying on them as a long-term solution to the homeless crisis.
One group particularly at risk of homelessness, U.S. veterans. After 2 years of steady decline, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development says veteran homelessness is on the rise again, up 7% from 2022 to 2023. In Kansas City, Missouri, Veterans Village is a community made up of more than 24 tiny homes. The nonprofit houses veterans free of charge and without a deadline to move out. You can read and watch reporter Kristen Crowley's full report on our website, InvestigateTV.com. Just type tiny homes in the search bar.
A mystery discovered in the walls of an historic movie theater.
Once we started taking off the old tile, we discovered a little piece of the wall fell out right here in this corner.
Still to come, a lost wallet provides a glimpse into the past.
It has meant more than I realized that it would. Truly.
But first, a young girl inspired to live her life to the fullest.
I think about it like, you got this, don't give up, basically.
Her message of encouragement to other children living with heart disease. Nearly 1 in 100 babies in the United States is born with a congenital heart defect, or CHD.
The Mayo Clinic defines CHD as one or more problems with the heart structure that's existed since birth. It can be really stressful for parents since the CDC says about 1 in 4 babies with CHD need surgery or other procedures in the first year of life.
But the American Heart Association says thanks to advancements in treatment, most children with CHD grow up to lead a normal, healthy life.
Reporter Claire Kopsky introduces us to an 8-year-old girl who's using her CHD diagnosis to inspire courage.
I win.
We joked that we prayed for her to fight through this. We prayed for her to be a fighter, and we did not read the fine print.
Kelly Chholsky can joke about it now.
Oh, how do you do it so fast?
But when her daughter Sadie was 6 days old, she went in for a regular weight check at her pediatrician, only to find Sadie needed an emergency appointment.
She felt pulse in her lower extremities, almost in her groin area. She said, we're having a hard time finding a pulse. And I'm looking at her thinking, she's breathing, she's moving, what do you mean? What do you mean?
The same day, she saw a cardiologist who said she needed surgery for a congenital heart defect, something 1 in every 100 babies are born with.
He said she is going to play soccer, she is going to run, she can swim the English Channel, but first we're going to have to fix her. And that was the moment that it became really, really serious.
Her first surgery was a success. In the next few months, baby Sadie had 2 more surgeries.
She has something called coarctation of the aorta, which is the narrowing of the aorta at the top of the heart. So her blood supply was being cut off. She wasn't getting, any oxygenated blood to her internal organs.
8-year-old Sadie can tell you all about it.
In your body, you have like 3 things, and it goes like, but mine only has 2, so mine goes open and shut.
A special heart that's made her a messenger for heart disease.
And what are you going to say to the doctors?
Thank you to saving my life and fixing my heart.
Now in 2nd grade, she plays soccer, softball, and runs in a running club, ensuring she's keeping her heart healthy.
I think about it like, you got this, don't give up, basically.
3, 2, 1. What's not lost on us is there are many more other instances where, families are grieving, and it's a lot. And we realize because of the type of advancements that have been done through just research and modern medicine and all the advancements that we have now, we're lucky that she got to come home with us.
A perspective they hope others living with CHDs know too.
I want to tell other kids that you don't have to be alone and you're perfect the way you are.
The Mayo Clinic says people with CHD need lifelong medical care. Treatment may include regular checkups, medications, and surgery.
Up next, the walls of an old movie theater in Atlanta held a mystery for decades.
We see this space behind the wall that no one knew about.
How its contents rekindled memories and gave one family a glimpse into their past. This next story has all the elements of a blockbuster film: mystery, intrigue, a surprise twist, and a happy ending.
It starts back in 1958 when a woman named Floy Colberth accidentally left her wallet at the Plaza Movie Theater in Atlanta. More than 6 decades later, the dust-covered relic turned up in the unlikeliest of places.
Reporter Joshua Skinner shows us how 21st century sleuthing uncovered the wallet's owner and its story.
For over 80 years, the Plaza Theater has turned out reliable entertainment, complete with popcorn, Coca-Cola, and of course, movies. But it was during a November bathroom renovation that owner Chris Escobar discovered a different kind of story.
Once we started taking off the old tile, we discovered a little piece of the wall fell out right here in this corner. And then we see this space behind the wall that no one knew about.
That space was a small closet attached to what used to be a manager's office, now a separate bathroom.
And that's when we discovered this incredible little historic find.
Buried under rock and dust.
If you follow my shadow, it was back here under this pipe.
That little bit of history? A wallet from 1958, likely lost and stored, but never claimed.
I mean, this is a treasure trove of 1958.
Complete with credit cards, family photos, gas receipts, and a name, Floy Culbreth. But could Floy possibly be located 65 years later?
And you found the family.
We did.
Floy Culbreth was actually started as Floy Porter.
This is Thea Chamberlain, Floy Culbreth's daughter.
To be honest, mother losing stuff would not have been a surprise.
Floy died over a decade ago. The Escobars and Chamberlains met at the Plaza Theater to exchange the wallet and memories. Weeks later, each viewing unearths new history.
Here's 10 gallons.
For $3.26.
Yeah.
That's like 1 gallon now,
yeah.
if you're lucky.
But mostly a window into a life and a love.
It has meant more than I realized that it would, truly.
Another tale for a theater with a little bit of history on the screen as well as in the walls.
Yeah, I think this theater still has a number of stories to tell. You know, it still surprises us.
What a great story. I lost my mom a few years ago, and if someone would show up with something of hers that she lost years ago, it would mean so much.
Yeah, she even said like what she didn't know how much she would treasure this and just love seeing this stuff. It brings back a lot of memories, I'm sure.
Piece.
Yeah, very nice. All right, that's it for us on Investigate TV Plus. I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Tisha Powell. Thanks for watching.
On the next Investigate TV Plus, homes and property not valued as they should be, potentially because of the color of the owner's skin.
What is the value of a black homeowner worth?
We investigate cases of alleged housing discrimination and uncover what's being done for those who say they've experienced appraisal bias.